So I think we're absolutely live right now. So Delia, I'm gonna go ahead and pretend like we are and like we know what we're doing. So first and foremost, thank you so much for being with us today for Ask an Educator. My name is Edgar Palacios, for those that don't know, and I am the founder of the Latinx Education Collaborative, and we work on increasing the representation of Latinx education professionals in K-12. And so here we are today with one of my favorite educators, Delia Perez-Solorzano. Delia, welcome so much to our community today.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
How's it going so far?
It's going okay. I mean, it has its ups and downs for sure, but we do our best to, as a family, to look at at this situation as a positive. It's a switch in mental mindset, definitely.
Is it so? How are you adjusting? I think in Kansas, the governor decided to say schools are done for the year, if I'm not mistaken. And so I think you might have gone on spring break, and then all of a sudden you found out that you weren't going back. What has that been like for you? How does that made you feel as a teacher?
Well, it was during spring break when we found out, and it was like the Wednesday of spring break, I believe, and it was shocking, surprising, disappointing, like all kinds of things, because we look forward to that spring break to kind of decompress, rest, enjoy our family, and then like find creative ways to like wrap up the school year in that fourth quarter for all the students. So it was a mixture of emotions, definitely.
Mm-hmm. If you could change one thing right now about your current situation in response to all this, what would you be changing?
Wow. Not having COVID-19 in the picture. Is that what you're talking about?
I think that's a fair response.
So no, I'm saying if COVID wasn't in the picture,
well, yeah.
I mean, if I can change one thing, that it would be that. However, if there was a way that I could, like, with a push of one button, make sure my students and my families, their families, and then my personal families, of course, all over from Mexico and Puerto Rico, I would love to know how everybody's doing and just make sure they're safe and healthy.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Well, we're going to come back and touch on COVID for a little bit here towards the end of this broadcast, but I'm going to just kind of go ahead and start and kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your journey. Where are you from? How did you get to Kansas City? Are you from Kansas City? We're excited to kind of learn more about you.
For sure. Well, I was born and raised in Chicago. We moved a little bit around the Albany Park area. Moved to Mexico for a year. Came back for second grade. I didn't know any English, except for like macaroni and cheese, because my babysitter used to make that for me and I loved it. But once we moved back to Chicago, my parents bought a home in Albany Park, and then we moved to Logan Square. So I've been there since I was 10 years old. Mm-hmm. Educated throughout all those years in the Chicago public school system. Fortunately, 2 elementary schools. Chicago has K-8, so elementary, middle. And then high school, one high school, Calvin Park High School. Woot woot. Just where I'm from, a little bit about myself.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Well, of course. How did you get to Kansas City?
Oh, for sure. Yes. It's a long story. To keep it short, I would say that, after high school, I was a triathlete. I played volleyball, basketball, softball. And I went on to play for a junior college. And then, you know how they say, like, it takes a village to raise a child? Well, my village were, besides my parents and my family, my community, it was my coaches, my teachers. Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes within that village, there's like division or disappointment or abandonment, whatever, and I'm not speaking only for myself, just in general, like within that village, there's distrust, division, etc. And I chose to react to that in a negative way, pretty much, like a lot of our young people do in urban core or rural. But and in that, I ended up in Tampa. Let's just say Tampa, Florida, for a little while, and back to Chicago, and then to Westminster, Maryland, which was it's a little bit outside of Baltimore.
Yeah.
And they became my new village kind of thing. You know, the village just kept growing because wherever I went, I found mentors. I found great people to help me like get back on track. And so I ended up in Kansas City in 2004. I was 24 years old, and with a main focus of graduating with a bachelor degree and having some kind of a career.
How did you decide to become a teacher?
I was hired by the Kansas City, Missouri School District. At the time, Alicia Miguel was the ESL director and the foreign language director combined. And I interviewed with her. And what's funny is most of the time I get asked, like, why Kansas City? And I'm like, long story, but I'm here. So she asked that question, of course. And then I worked at Askew Elementary. That elementary school is now closed, but it's like Van Brunt in 27th area. And I worked with the ESL department there. I was hired as an ESL tutor. So I was part-time. And man, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like a mirror reflection, deja vu, like all of that. I remembered my struggle coming back from Mexico, going to second grade, not speaking English, crying because I didn't know how to say, can I go to the bathroom in English? Like finding that support system, all that. And the parents, you know, being undocumented immigrants or new to the city or the country, and helping them just translate. And oh man, I went to immigration meetings, I went to court meetings, I went to help them find glasses, dental care, because I found a Puerto Rican dentist like my first month here, Dr. Rodriguez. And so I was like, he speaks Spanish, he's bilingual. So just that's where it started, right there. I changed my major.
You changed your major. So what are you currently doing now?
I'm a high school teacher at JC Harmon. I've been there 9 years. I have also been the volleyball coach. I worked my way up from like freshman coach to JV, and I've been varsity now for 4 years.
I know I've had the pleasure of being in your classroom and interacting with your students, and I think maybe I'm out of touch for saying this, but I feel like you're one of the popular teachers in your building. Every time I'm there, I see a lot of love and a lot of respect for you, and then a lot of students just stopping by your classroom and seeing how you're doing and checking in. It's kind of cool to see that. I'm going to ask you a question because you and I share some similarities in terms of like traveling across the country. I was born in Miami, spent some time in Spokane, Washington, smaller town in Missouri, and then ended up in Kansas City myself. And so what was that experience like, just traveling across the country and you know, learning how to build, to your point, like building a new village consistently? How does that impact a student or you in particular?
Man, I mean, if you want to talk like on just cultural, like assimilation and adjustment, I would say in Florida, it wasn't so bad. Like Tampa was pretty diverse. There were a lot of Latinos there. I was connected there with some Puerto Ricans and una familia hondureño. And so in Baltimore, I learned a lot more about, I was living with like 12 other women from different backgrounds all over the East Coast, a couple from like out West, but it was it was a great experience, but it was also what we call like iron sharpens iron, like sandpaper sisters. Like there were all these sayings that we were like, you know what, we're going to grow, we're going to get through this. Kansas City, I would say 14 years ago, it was a lot different than today, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I also think it was who I surrounded myself around. The first summer I got here, I got involved with Anytown through NCCJ, and eventually it was called Youth Leadership Institute. And through that organization and through that experience, I created a lot of good bonds, a lot of good friends. As you were saying, like that village, creating that village, friends, support, creating a family outside of your blood family.
Yeah.
Like, that experience has been great, man. Really.
How do you think that influences your ability to the way that you teach today, the way that you show up as an educator?
Well, just providing them different perspectives. I mean, I believe I'm a type of facilitator where I push their thinking and I challenge them without judgment, right? So if a student, refuses to believe something that I am saying, and I say, okay, so what makes you think that way? Or why, what's your frame of reference? Where are you coming from with that? Because outside of your zone, right, there's other communities or other groups of people, ethnic groups, racial groups, etc., whatever the topic is, like that think that way. Let's look at it through this lens. So I would say just it's perspective.
I appreciate that. Do you think that creates a little bit more empathy for student situations as well? The life experience kind of helps you understand the challenges students may be facing today.
Oh, for sure. Without a doubt. Yeah. I should have said that, Edgar. Thanks.
No. I think it's no, one thing that I really appreciate. So something that we talk about at the LEC a lot is that representation really matters. And, in our efforts to kind of elevate the voices of Latino, Latinx educators, it's important that, our community understands that having folks like yourself in the classroom is super important in terms of like improving the educational outcomes of all students. And so part of the reasoning, I believe, and I think data backs this up, is that you have a diverse and lived experience, right? You have a different way of navigating the world and understanding life. And so I think that ability allows you to interact with students in a different way. And by the way, I'm going to say you have some fans. I'm new to the StreamYard thing. We're trying some new technology today. But Ronaldo Williams says hello. Lori Peters says hello, by the way. And then Paula Blevin says, great teacher, one of her previous students. So you got some fan love out there.
Awesome. Hey, Paula.
So
I love
that's pretty cool. But yeah, back to representation, again, I've seen you in action. I've had the pleasure of seeing you in action. I know that you talk about some really interesting things in terms of heritage language. And so you see some really interesting conversations amongst our Latino students. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? What, like, some of the challenges that you see the diverse variety of Latino students engage in kind of their ideas and the way that you navigate that?
Yes. Wow. How much time do we have?
We got a whole 45 minutes.
Let me tell you, it has been a pleasure, a blessing, an honor to work with the Heritage Program this year. It's the first time. I've been teaching Spanish 1, 2, and 3. And of course, occasionally we get the native speakers or the heritage speakers in those basic level courses. However, in comparison to having a heritage speakers course with heritage speakers and that wide spectrum, and that spectrum would be someone like me, someone who born and raised in the States, educated most of her years in English, and then maybe another group that would be in there would be students that just got here from somewhere in Central America, Mexico, South America, Caribbean, Spain. Geez, I'm gonna say Spaniard. Anywhere, they speak Spanish, but so it's a wide spectrum. And what's interesting is though society views us as a very united group of people, and I agree deep in my heart, and so I agree. There's this however piece though, like there's division among the Latino groups. So you have your students that just arrived, so your immigrant students, and then your Chicano or your first generation Latinos in the same classroom. They tend to separate. And so the type of conversations that that we had in our first quarter, it was kind of, no, it definitely was motivated by their verbal communication and even body language towards one another. And so I really pushed that concept that is in our GVC about identity and pride. And so we started to talk about, you know, ¿cómo te identificas tú? You know, like, how do you identify? I am Latina. I am a woman. I am a teacher, right? I'm a daughter. Like, so what does that mean? You know, what values, you know, what core values, what traditions come along with that, right? What is it that you can share with others, right? Or commune with others with that. I'd say that my favorite activity, and again, I'm gonna steal it from like the Anytown. I modified an activity that we do there called Those People, but I kept it with labels in the Latino community. And so we used words like Chicano, Mexican American, Mexican, USian, I threw that in there, but you know, American, you know, American is North America, Central America, South America. So, but you know, the US claims it. So anyhow, then I put like country of origin and a bunch of others. And then we went around with one color and wrote positive words that we've heard about those groups. We also put immigrant, by the way, the word immigrant, sorry. Yeah. And then we went around and with another color and wrote negative labels that we've heard that reference those groups. And let me tell you, man, it opened up I had to lock my door. And people, I had students go to where they identified with, and they with their group, and they read the labels, the positive ones, the negative ones. Yeah. And it was a great argument, you know, a little bit of shouting, like, you know, the undocumented students were like, oh, they say that, you know, we don't know how to speak English. And then the Chicano group or the first generation group were like complaining that the undocumented group called them lazy and privileged and all this. And it was like, wow. So the students really drove that work. And it was an amazing conversation. We moved through there to talk about, you know, a little bit of history. And then we continue to talk about, we left off with social issues in our communities. The students came up with those concerns and issues. I made them do research on it. You know, who is it affecting? You know, what's the data or statistics that say about that issue? And they came up with an awesome issue, like teen pregnancy, gang violence, crime, health issues. A lot of mental health came up with that, and the students created solutions for these problems. So they had to identify it, do some research, and then write some solutions, and they presented in the classroom, and it was an awesome experience.
Just quickly, Ronaldo says, Delia rocks. Laura Flores, she says, I'm here. Hey, Laura. And then Elizabeth Mounts here, she says, thanks for all you do for our Hartman students, Delia. And so again, more love for you as an educator. I'm hope that, you know, you are surrounded by the people that, knowing that people absolutely love you and value you, particularly during this time as well. But thanks for sharing that.
That's good. Thank you for the love. I appreciate it. We need it.
You know, and thank you for sharing that about our students, because I think, you know, depending on where you come from, how you come here, how you engage in American society, so to speak, and how you try to navigate and how your parents tell you to navigate for, you know, there's a lot of tension in our community, and there's a lot of different ways of navigating, and it can be incredibly interesting and fragmenting sometimes. I remember my first experience in Spokane, Washington. I tell the story in 6th grade. my first day, the young woman that I sat next to was like, I don't want to sit to a dirty Mexican. And I was confused by that because, one, I'm not Mexican. My parents are from Nicaragua. So I proudly represent the Nicaraguan population in that. But also, like, I took a shower that day, right? And so that was that was my first real introduction into I essentially racism, discrimination, all these other topics that I didn't really see or notice in Miami. But that's also because I had the privilege of living in a community that's full of Latinos from all over the world, and so you learn to interact in a very different way. So I think that magic happens in your classroom, because I think what I've seen and what I've heard from your students is that you are helping building a bridge, and closing a gap within our community about how we understand each other and how we interact each other as diverse of a population as we are. So outside of just, outside of like teaching the basics and talking about history and that, like, you're actually doing social justice work to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about social justice work a little bit, because I think you come from a family of social justice warriors. Tell me a little bit about your mom and the work that she did, and she probably still does, in Chicago.
Well, my mother's now retired, but I am hoping that she's interested in doing some consulting. She just moved here on Monday. We kind of fast-tracked this move because of the pandemic, and I'm so glad she's here. My mother, just to give you a brief story on her, she was a Cookie Mania worker, literally. Cookie Mania. Go to Amazon. Their books are like 42 cents and the best recipes ever. And she actually gave some input on those. But Cookie Mania, and then Charlotte Charles. And then she went to a Dinkle's Bakery on Lincoln Avenue in Chicago. And she just had a bodily injury. She had to take some time off. And in her time off, the local school council initiative started in the Chicago public school system, and they went around knocking on doors and canvassed the community and surveyed parents. And I think whoever came to her door said, did you know that there are, I think, 35 or 40 students in each classroom, and there aren't enough books for the kids or chairs or seats? And she said, no, I didn't. And that caught her attention. And she worked her way up from a volunteer parent to a lead organizer to an assistant director of a project out of COFI, which is Community Organizing and Family Issues. And then they piloted the program in Westtown, Logan Square. And Westtown is the community that, it's like Logan Square, Westtown, and Humboldt Park, the Puerto Rican community. And she did that for years. I want to say 20 years. And her program grew. Eventually, she became executive director and had, an 8-room suite. We Built Foundation was, funding her programs. And basically what she did was organize parents. So the Community Organizing and Family Issues. So you can only imagine. She started doing this when I was 10 years old. I went to all the meetings. I sat under the tables and did homework. And when I became like a preteen, I babysat all the other parents' kids in the basement. Like, we're just playing, and then licking envelopes and sending out mail. And I remember a time in my life where I was a little frustrated, where I was like, man, you're working with parents, but yet you're not here with me, And eventually it took other people appreciating her and saying, you have an amazing mother. Like, your mother rocks. Your mother is building and making things happen. And I was like, yeah, if you like her, I love her. She's my mother, right? So I just embraced it. I embraced the experience, and I started to be involved. And by the time I became a junior, they started the local school council student representative initiative. And so I applied for it, and I campaigned for it in my building, and I got it. And I was able to sit with my mother, amazing Latinos in this community. It was Willie Delgado. He was a state rep for a while. Jose Perales, who worked at UIC, and my mother, and then Miss Miller, and Diana Scoitia was the principal at the time. And it was an awesome experience. And of course, I looked after my athletic department, right? We got new football gear. They hadn't had new football gear since the 1970s. And so I was able to organize and do things. And it feels amazing to accomplish, you know, a goal that you set. So it was really cool. I got bit with that. It's amazing.
How do you see organizing now as an educator? You know, what does organizing look like to you today?
Well, in Kansas City, I want to say that, you know, it's different. Chicago is very direct action. I remember going to so many rallies and so many strikes. I mean, we literally got on a charter bus, and when gentrification started happening in our communities, we would it was Logan Square Neighborhood Association, Albany Park, Bickerdike. It was all these nonprofits coming together, and we went to each alderman's office in the front. And as long as you're in movement, you're not breaking the law, right?
Right.
And we were demanding 10% set asides for all these condos being built. That those 10% of those housing that they be for Section 8 or affordable living. And so when you see that and you experience that, and when I came to Kansas City, there are some good action groups here. I'm not you know, down talking it in any way. It's just for me, it was a little bit different, and it could be because I had the network there, right, and I had the comfort,
right,
and my mother was usually kind of like in charge and taking charge of organizing. So, but I do use those organizing skills in anything I do, whether I'm organizing teachers to do something, or with the volleyball program at Harmon, it's an all year long job for me, and it's a tier 1 paid sport. So I'm not doing it for the money, people, like at all. Like in KCK, I'll be honest. I think I cut 2,500, but I work all year long, and I'm into organizing alumni. I bring the alumni from the late 90s together, and you know, get them to mentor the kids or the alumni tournaments. And that's a lot of organization. I'm talking, I got to go through red tape like you wouldn't believe, paperwork, legwork, marketing, all kind of stuff. So
let me ask you a question. Why do you do it?
Oh gosh,
seems like a lot of work. You know, it seems like a lot of excess work that you don't necessarily have to do. So why do you do it?
Love, passion. The students, they love it. They want it. I want you to also know that the kids have motivated anything that I've done, pretty much. Like all the work or any kind of activities that I've organized. It's been student led or some ideas that they come up with, and then I just like, let's do it. You know, like I need a group to do this and a group to do that, and I delegate, and we're like, let's go.
Yeah. I have so many thoughts and kind of so many questions kind of running in my brain, but I'm gonna open it up to the community of folks that are watching us. If you have any questions for Delia, feel free to comment on the live stream. I'm happy to ask on your behalf, and happy to get her takeaways and her thoughts around that. Delia, so tell me a little bit about, so you've obviously made some changes in the way that you're delivering instruction. You're obviously adjusting to new technology, maybe not new technology, but like a more consistent way of using it in your process. What are some of the surprises that you've seen in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, that you've been doing this work?
Zoom. I mean, it's a lot of meetings. I've also realized that, I mean, a lot of information is being thrown at us. Yeah. I had to close all my tabs in order to start this video, but I had it organized, you know, right. Now I can get started again, but there's a link for questions and a link for the continuous learning plan. And then within that plan, there are other links. And so I had everything open because I'm facilitating some Zoom meetings with the World Language Department. And when they were filled with some questions, I kind of just share my screen and let them know, like, it's on the draft, it's on here. Just so not only am I telling them, but I'm showing them. And then if they don't know how to access it, I'm like, well, here's the shared drive, and this is what you click on, etc. So it's not so different, but it is. Like I can't explain it. Instead of sitting in front of one another, we're sitting in front of a screen. I would say some of the fun perks are that you can mute your microphone, you can, take off the camera for a moment and just, go, for a minute. Go to the bathroom, etc. But it's not going to be the same as far as like being around the kids and being able to see and interact with them.
Yeah.
And I would say one particular group that became special for me in this third quarter was the group of students that would come to my classroom during lunch. It ended up being like another class.
Right.
And I had about 4 kids in there that I didn't even have in my class at all, but they just found either comfort or quiet or peace, whatever their reason was. And we just shoot the breeze. And then I always had a boy to my right who would ask me what I'm eating and the recipe, and he loved food. And so I eventually started bringing extra for him. And we just have this food connection.
Yeah.
And then I had another girl in front of me, just, she didn't want to eat that day or whatever. She'd hang out. And that group, we became close. We would have like 6 conversations going on too. Mm-hmm. It was intense, but awesome. It was good.
Yeah. I think a lot of educators right now are absolutely missing their students and having that interpersonal interaction with them. And then also something you mentioned is like that space, that safe space that you created for some students that weren't even, you technically weren't their teacher officially, but you were able to hold space for them in a different way, and they found comfort in that. And so I think about those students particularly in times like this, because hopefully they are in safe spaces as well, and they're continuing to feel loved and nurtured. But I remember one of my favorite teachers. I would just always go down to her classroom and just hang out there during lunch and during other times that I had the ability to do so. And like it was a great space for me, and it made me feel safe, and it made me feel like I was valued, and I got to kind of do things that I was interested in at the same time. So. I feel for the students that don't have those spaces right now, and I also feel for the educators who are missing their students, because as we I think are figuring out, Zoom is great, and I'm glad that we get to interact by video, and but also sometimes like giving that high five or that elbow can make the difference in a student's life. So thank you for sharing that. Lori Peter says, yes, we are. I think she's referring to the students and missing them. And this is a good conversation. Lori, thanks for listening and paying attention. Ronaldo, I hope your screen is working again. Delia, we probably have roughly 20 minutes left.
Sure.
I kind of want to just also kind of broach a little bit about like, what's exciting about this for you though? Like, I think you are an ideator. You have a lot of great ideas. And so, what are the opportunities that you see right now with even your teaching, or how you're going to include this in your teaching next year, or just in general?
Well, we have moved towards like menus and choice boards, and I have heard of teachers do that in the past. Actually, I know Miss Baker at Harmon was really good at doing stuff like that, and I know there's a few others, and I'm going to forget their names right now, but I always looked at it as like, man, that's a lot of grading. That's a lot of different kind of work and all that, but never gave it a shot. And now I love it. Like you're giving students like 9 options, 9 different activities to get involved in, to interact with. We as a department, as the World Language Department, we've decided to include like an outdoors activity, some kind of a movement activity, and a connection activity. So connecting with other people or family, friends, and then the rest of those options are content related. Now in our district, the continuous learning plan, we're focusing on just expanding, recycling, reusing concepts that they've learned. And so I think it's also going to be comprehensible for them, more of a review, etc. So I'm excited about that. Will I use this in my classroom next year? I've been promoted, I guess you could say. I've applied for the World Language Instructional Coaching position, and I was offered the position and I accepted. I'm kind of stepping into that role by organizing the teachers and collaborating on Zoom. So on Wednesdays, don't bother me. I have 4 days in a row.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if I were to go back in the classroom, I think I would have considered choice boards per unit as a form to create something, right? To produce knowledge, to show me that they're able to apply what they're learning.
Yeah, Lori's agreeing with you. She says that's a great idea. She loves the menu option. And so I heard a rumor, and this is just a rumor, and more of a joke, really. Like, there's no more such things as snow days anymore. Particularly if we were able to bridge those digital divides that some of our students face, and we're able to figure out how to best interact and how to best deliver instruction through a virtual method. So what you're talking about reminds me of, like, what will education look like next year? What will, like, our standards and what will, the way that we interact with students look like forever, and how has that changed, and what will we keep,
Right. I think I would keep that, but also I would add one more. Miss Salgado and I, she's the other heritage speakers teacher. We got on Zoom and I demonstrated, and she talked about how I want them to open this document, look at the 9 options, select 3, create a document, etc. We went through all these steps on Google Classroom for them, so they're able to click play and pause as they need to complete the assignments.
Yeah.
And it was also like a greetings, like, hey, we miss you. We hope you're safe. Stay updated on the website for information, et cetera, et cetera. So it was informative. And I think that's something that we could essentially keep, like, post a video introducing yourself to your students like the week before school starts, right?
Oh, cool. Yeah.
They have that connection. When they see you, they're like, hey, yeah. And so, and then maybe even doing a video so that also they feel more comfortable if you encourage them to create a video for their speech or presentation,
Yeah.
Very, very rarely throughout my years when we have presentations, I think I've had about 4 students that preferred to, record themselves, give the weather, for example. And it was hilarious. They'd have like clouds behind them saying, "Oy, no, like primer impacto," like all this kind of stuff, man. But you don't really, but if you break the ice with them and say, hey, well, I posted videos all the time. So
yeah,
that would be a cool one too.
You're getting a great comment from Alicia Rodriguez Montañez. Delia, you are incredible, and I'm proud of being part of your world language team. A little bit more love for you today on this cloudy afternoon. Speaking of clouds, also nice shout out to the Primer Impacto. I mean, that show doesn't get
research. She looked up. She's like, can I put like Univision on there and Galavision? And I was like, whatever you want. And she must have found something. She said, "Hola, bienvenidos a Primer Impacto." Yeah.
I love it.
I love it. Yep.
Oh man. So much good stuff coming from this. So let me ask you in terms about, like, you also have a beautiful son.
Oh yes.
You have a family as well. And so what's been the balance, if there's such thing as balance, in terms of like working from home, teaching from home, and also being present in your family's life? What does that look like right now?
Well, I don't know if parents would agree with me or not. So I'm just going to tell you what we do. We let him stay up later than usual. On school nights, we would prepare him for bed at 7:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And that means like brushing your teeth, washing up, getting your PJs on, prayer, reading books, etc. And then he's settling down by 8:30, right?
Yeah.
Now with this pandemic, we let him stay up not as late as he can, but like around 10, right? So 10:15. And let me tell you, he wakes up at 10:45, pretty much like on the dot. He's a 12-hour boy. He's 4 years old. And so I've done a lot of research throughout several years. I used to always tell my students that, you should be sleeping 8 to 10 hours and take a nap when you get home. Your organs, your bones, everything is still forming. Like you don't want it to be premature. So with him, we encourage that as well. He needs to sleep. We want him to grow healthy, etc. So we let him sleep. He has of course, like a lunch brunch. And then we start school shortly after that, which works out because a lot of my meetings have been during the day. So we're able to get a lot done by the time he wakes up. I mean, we're up 3-4 hours before him. So, and then balancing that. Now my parents just got here Monday. So my mother is offering to make Easter eggs with him tomorrow. His birthday's on the 14th. So they're going to be planning stuff. We're being a little creative with his schedule. We want him to, work on his Spanish. So we have a lot of Spanish apps. Thanks to Washington Carver Elementary instructional coach out there. He gave me a bunch of stuff. And so he's working with their numbers, colors, animals, even countries. There's like a whole map and he gets to label the countries. Yeah. And so, we're working it. We're working what we have. And like I said, it's great to like mute button, camera, and then Kaleo, give me 5 more minutes. And he'll tell Alexa, put the timer for 5 minutes. Like, accountable.
I love it. Kaleo's quite a kid. He's going places. I'm excited for his future as well. Quickly, as we kind of round out our conversation, so what are some tips and advice that you have for our community of teachers, parents, and students at the moment? Like, what are some of the highlights that you just want to kind of get across?
With teachers, I would say I've been saying this. It came from our curriculum director Matt Anderson and Susie Legg. It's like less is more. Less is more. Collaborate. I'm going to give you an example. I work with the World Language Department, and Vanessa, the other Spanish teacher, she has a 4-year-old. She has, I think, an almost 1-year-old, and she's due in 7 weeks. So teachers, like if you're in that situation, lean on us, lean on others that are doing stuff like, let me steal this. So that is why we came up with the welcome video together. Right. And the chalkboard together, and then we're going to post it together. And when she gives birth, I offered to take over her Google Classroom, because if I'm going to do it, I might as well just log in hers and do hers. Right. Yeah. Because it's about the kids. Right. It's about the students and making sure that they have something. And whether she's absent, for a moment, and parents, let the kids sleep. I think you've posted my comment. Dance with them. I love dancing with Kaleo. And we literally stop what we're doing sometimes and put on music. It shoots dopamine in your system, and we're laughing, and because he makes up dances. He does this little finger thing, and where did you get that from? We don't dance like that, bro. Like, what's up with you? It's like whatever they watch on TV, right? And I would say let them sleep. I mentioned the TikToks. Yeah. I've seen a lot more parents involved with TikToks just in my stream that I watch. I'm like, this is awesome. This is great. And, students, I want you sleeping. I want you resting. I want you spending time with your family, clean the house, get involved with your home life. I checked in with my senior FA and my volleyball players. A lot of them said that's what they were doing. They're like, we're cleaning, a lot of cleaning. Awesome.
Oh man. That's good stuff. I appreciate your comment on TikToks, and I think we got some comments around TikToks as well around, being able to be silly and show a little bit of levity during this time with your kids. And we had a gentleman on a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Alfredo Garcia, who was like, time is your superpower right now. You know, if you have the ability to spend time in doing things that you traditionally haven't done, or things that you put away, or like, you know, you use this as a gift, and it kind of shape your mindset. Now, granted, not everybody can do that. Not everybody has the ability to do that, and so we have to obviously be cognizant of that. But if you do have the privilege to spend some time with your family and you know, enjoy that, and be present in that.
I would also add, like, if you know families or teachers that don't have other people living with them, check in with them, Zoom them, just pick up the phone and have happy hour with them. I had dinner with a friend of mine the other day. Like, we're just like eating our food and talking, like we were in front of each other, and it was great. But yeah, I would definitely connect with people. Use this time to connect again.
One question that I'm asking all of our educators now, and moving forward, is, so as a community, what can we do to support you?
Continue to do things like this. Let me say that in all my years in education here in Kansas City, you know, the recognition that we exist, that we have a voice, that we can amplify our voice, that we have a space where we could not have to overthink what comes out of my mouth. Like, this is home, you know. It feels great. And I wish that we could provide more, I don't know if you'd call them talleres, workshops, pláticas, whatever you want to call them, on how we can, and I know you've done this before, but let's continue this during this time.
Yeah.
You know, how can we amplify our voice in a space where we are the minority? Definitely. You know, how can we amplify our voice when we want to speak up and say something? Yeah. Sorry, I was just in a situation not too long ago where I definitely didn't feel that I was being heard, you know, and it was very frustrating. And so I definitely thought about reaching out to you, and I knew we were going to talk today. So I don't know if we could post chat, but
oh, absolutely, we can post that.
I think that if we could find a way to navigate through there. I know that what I am using, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with me that are listening, that I surround myself around allies that are able to amplify my voice, but through them. Yeah. Because if it came from me, I'm going to stop it right there. You know,
it could have a different outcome for sure.
For sure.
You know, I will say, so
we tell you, people don't realize that. They think we're crazy or something, but it's like, no, I say something, goes on deaf ears. Someone else, the ally says it. Oh, great idea. You know,
you know, you're not alone in that. We talked to Nicole Goodman, who's a CEO at Scuola Vida Nova, on Tuesday, and she mentioned that, and I think Betsaida Imperiale commented as well and said, like,
Betsaida has a story. And she has a story.
So, you know, I feel you on that, and we can absolutely post chat, and you know, we will rise up to that challenge of how do we continue to create space and hold space for folks, at least virtually for now. But, you know, I think part of it too is, again, I absolutely believe that by elevating voices like yours and creating the platforms that give you the ability to connect with other folks, some people are learning right now from you. And I think even the recognition that the professional environment can be difficult for us, particularly as Latinos, it can be helpful, and it makes you feel a little less crazy in the world. So I appreciate your courage and your ability to kind of navigate that. And also, I'm always here for you, as you know. So we can talk a little bit about that afterwards. We have a few more minutes left. And so, community, I'm going to just do an all call. If you have any questions or final comments for Delia, feel free to post them, and I will absolutely share them with her. A good final question for you. So, like, what is one quote that you live by?
Oh, man. I'm probably going to chop it up, but I loved it because I've moved around so much. Yeah. It's like saying, do not go where the path may lead. Instead, go another path and leave a trail. And I loved it. It's kind of like like what legacy are you going to leave behind? You know, what, and man, I'm all about like finding my path through this journey. Like, let me tell you that this opportunity right now to become the world language instructional coach is an awesome opportunity. We don't have a lot of Latina females in these roles, right? Or males. And so it's amazing. About a week ago, someone reached out to me through Facebook, okay? And literally just offered me a position, a head volleyball coaching position and a teaching position to teach Spanish. And I'm like, why is this opportunity opening, right? And I let him know that I would be an instructional coach and I'm looking towards leadership, etc. And then, and I mentioned to him why, which is what I said now. And he agreed, but he's like, look, it's here. And he tried to sell me the retirement package and like all these other great things. And the pay is quite a bit more, even as an instructional coach in KCK. I also have this philosophy of, not all money's good money, right? I also have this thing where, you got to go where you're called. And so right now during this time, like he's encouraging me to apply and have a conversation with him, etc. But it's like, whoa. So I got to listen to that still voice, right? Pray, think about it, etc. Yeah. But yeah, I'm all about like that journey and leading your own way. Just go do it. I did it.
And you're still doing it, and you will be continuing to doing it for a long time to come. Ronaldo says, thank you so much for sharing. Lori's like, amen, sister. So again, more validation, more love for you out there. Man, what a powerful quote. Lead the way. And I was telling a group of City or core members a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago, I forget. Time is no longer time anymore. I
thought today was Tuesday for a long time.
You don't need permission to lead anymore, right? And so you don't have to wait your turn, and particularly in a time like this where we need folks to step up and we need folks to show out and live their authentic selves and be their authentic selves, right? And lead from where they're passionate from. And so I appreciate you sharing that quote. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Any final thoughts? Any final comments, shout outs or anything like that you want to give some folks?
Oh, for sure. Thank you, Latinx Education Collaborative. You stepped in during a time that I was on edge for real. So thank you. And thank you for all who are watching and the support that I've been receiving. I really appreciate it. Harmon, shout out to Harmon. They've been my family for 9 years. It's bittersweet leaving, I'm going to miss the students, especially the volleyball program. That's been my baby for a while. And I love what the students have become. My family, last but not least, right? My family, my wife, Carla, my son, and my mom and dad that are downstairs waiting for me. So thank you. Thank you.
I love it. It's a full house of love and full house of joy. So
yes, I'm glad we have extra rooms, yo.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
All right.
Before we end the broadcast, I just want to share with the community, the LEC is currently providing LEC virtual care packages for our educators that are in need. I think some educators have utilized those care packages to send notes of encouragement to their students or to download apps to better connect with their students virtually. So if you're interested, we're going to go ahead and post that in the comment section to how to apply. Delia, thank you participated in that, and thank you for utilizing that for your students as well. Again, Delia, thank you so much for sharing with us. This is part of our mission to elevate voices of Latinx education professionals, and you are an outstanding teacher, educator, and friend. So appreciate your time.
Thank you. Adios.
See you later, LEC community.
Bye.